My next guest is making her first appearance on the James Show. Am I talking to Serah D'Laine or Serah Lane, first of all? Welcome to the James Show. Give the listeners a little bit of your background before we start jumping into the issues here, Serah.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. But yes, it is Serah D'Laine. I was originally, my background was in the entertainment industry, so there is an AKA of Serah Lane, yes. If you Google, you'll find both. But so I started in Hollywood. Now I'm a personal brand expert, business consultant, marketing strategist, and agency owner. So my agency is Stage 8.
Fantastic. Yeah, because if I Google you to try and look at what you're up to, a lot of stuff pops up. So apparently you've been very busy. And so let's talk. So let's talk about what you do now.
So I do branding and marketing. I specialize in people who have a personal brand. They're the face of their business. They need to manage their reputations online. They need to build a business or sell a product or a service. And the best and fastest, most efficient way to do that is using the power of their personal brand. So I help them strategize their business and create marketing campaigns using the power of their personal brand.
All right, Serah D'Laine. So what would you tell Elon Musk? Over the last couple of weeks, there's been a rash of vandalism to Cybertrucks and Tesla showrooms, and now there's like a hacking attempt at Twitter/X. How does someone like that repair their brand, or can they repair their brand?
So I think what the important conversation is, because it's really not about political sides as much as that's in the conversation. I think the real story is actually about kind of the radical, rebellious behavior of some of these individuals that are unable to be civil, and it kind of reflects the level of mental illness by some of them, if I'm going to go so bold to say. And we really need to stop tolerating that behavior regardless of political views. So some of these campaigns that are like, make them a toxic brand in order to take them down, Elon being the most recent one, I really feel like the real toxic brand that why we aren't addressing is the individuals who are starting these campaigns that incite violence, defamation, then it extends to hurting innocent people, which is exactly what's happening. People who are driving Teslas or getting vandalized just because they own a Tesla. So all of that, we've just reached a level in society that just really, our tolerance should be null.
Right. Well, Serah D'Laine, if Elon Musk called you, he's like, look, you're a brand strategist. Clearly, I need some brand strategy here. Would you tell him to do anything different, or would you tell him, look, this is just the nature of the game. Keep plugging along. You're not doing anything wrong.
So I think, and I don't know Elon, and I haven't met with him personally, and I don't know what his business model is from a branding perspective. Again, outside of politics, and this, like, don't make any assumptions on what my political views are based on this statement either. However, from simply a brand perspective, I think his brand archetype is creator and innovator. And so every brand and every personal brand is driven by their purpose. And it's driven by their values and the mission that they want to create and impact they want to create in the world. I think that he's focused on that. It's then the people who kind of want to try to take that down. So where are we as any leader, anybody who has a personal brand, or anybody who wants to build anything in the world, again, you have to do what you're going to do. And there's always going to be somebody who's like the little bully that's going to try to, take down your sandcastle that you built. And that's where I think the conversation needs to be. But I tell CEOs, entrepreneurs all the time, absolutely, based on society, it's not the smartest thing, obviously, to share your political or even your religious views because society shows up this way. So again, if we're not addressing that conversation, then CEOs aren't going to feel like they're able to share what those political or religious views are. Again, though, he's a creator. He's an innovator. He's building. So he's going to keep building, whatever that is. And as long as he's driven by those values from a business and a brand perspective, we can respect that. The people who are trying to tear that down, I feel like any leader, anybody who's trying to build anything would really relate compassionately to that.
Well, I relate on a much smaller scale to that because, no one's like torching our office or spray painting my car or anything. But we have to deal with a certain stigma that comes with being on talk radio. And, we have like Dan Bongino, and before that we had Rush Limbaugh on. And so there's always going to be some people out there that think we're like literally Hitler. And that's so exhausting. Like
Isn't it?
Right. And, the sports guys don't have to deal with that. The country guys don't have to deal with that. If I was on a rock station, I wouldn't have to deal with that. But, it's something that my heart bleeds a little for this guy because I'm in an opinion format where we talk about subjects that are necessarily going to be divisive in the eyes of some people. And I don't know how I get around that.
So here's this, like from a bird's eye view. Again, if we as a culture, as a society, if we want to foster growth, any company culture knows that if you go too far left or too far right, that doesn't foster growth. So from a cultural, international, or even domestic stance, if we can't see past, as individuals that make up this culture, if we can't see past just left versus right, then we're only limiting ourselves into binary thinking, which kind of just puts you in a very sophomoric place. And so we have the power and we have the ability to kind of go back to the yes and rule if we want to, if we can, and get that third perspective. And if we can do that, then I feel like what people don't like is they don't like injustice.
Well, I think we saw Bud Light do a turnaround where they ran into some political waters, and the heat was on them for a few months. And then they just turned around and threw a bunch of money at people who were perceived to be on the other side of the aisle, and they've kind of leveled it out. They bought a big endorsement with UFC and Dana White and Shane Gillis and didn't they get like a Kid Rock endorsement out of this too or something like that?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think if I remember, I'd have to double check, but you're right. Bud Light.
So it can happen. You can be staying with politics and turn it back around.
So that's what I think. If we let people have freedom to change their minds, to backpedal or whatever, is he going to? I don't know. Again, I don't call him at home. And yet at the same time, we all should reserve the right to say, okay, did we go too left, or did we go too right, just like those brands? I think they went a little too hard in one direction. And again, that doesn't foster growth. So I agree with you. Like if you put out I think Elon has put out a statement where he's like, hey, sorry for the innocent people who have been affected, which I agree with. I think that was really, really smart. So he's doing his best to address the narrative. Can he pull back? It's unfortunate that it becomes so political just because it happens to be Trump. If we were looking at two businessmen, we wouldn't be having the same conversation. We'd say, look, those are two creators, and they're looking to collaborate on something, and what's going to come out of it, we don't know. Is it going to be good? We don't know. Is it going to be bad? We don't know.
Well, Serah,
but where are we, slashing people for giving it a shot? Try something.
Right. Serah, it's a good chat. We're just out of time. Where do we find your work online?
It's stage8.com or SerahD'Laine.com is my personal brand. Serah is spelled a little differently, SerahDlaine. You can always Google my name. You can find anything there. And Stage 8 is STAGE and then IIX.com.
Yeah.
So, or on social media. Just hit me up, Instagram or LinkedIn.
All right. And if you're a General Hospital fan, you may recognize some of the pictures that pop up in the Google search. My mother-in-law is going to go type that in right now. Thank you, Serah. I appreciate it.
You're here. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me on.